to Capernaum.
Yeah.
And then went there.
Well, that's fair enough. Capernaum is where he had the long discourse about the bread and the blood, or the body and the blood and the bread, and he's the bread of heaven. That discourse in John 6. So that is where he was at Capernaum, and then we had one little section after that was also in that neighborhood. And now he's left there and he's going on. Where did Jesus go from? From Capernaum. And to what area did he go?
Sidon and Tyre.
Sidon and Tyre. If you got your Bible with you, turn to your maps and find one that has the Palestine. It'll be something like Canaan in the life of Jesus, or something like that. Palestine in the time of Christ. You'll have a map back there that has this kind of here on this page. It'll look something like this. See that? There you go. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, now if you take your hand and sort of trace along the Mediterranean Sea up to right in here, this is your Tyre and Sidon area, right up in here. And Syro-Phoenicia also. So you'll see like Phoenicia and Syria right there. So this is where Jesus went. So you see here's your Sea of Galilee. Capernaum's up at the top of it. And then he goes up here, goes north and east, north and west, to get over here to Tyre and Sidon, that area, okay? So he's left what might be called Palestine, I guess, in a way. Certainly he's left the area that is heavily populated by the Hebrew people. And he's gone up into this neck of the woods. So that's where he went. Well, so was he further away from Jerusalem or closer to Jerusalem as a result of this last trek?
He's farther away.
He's further away from Jerusalem, wasn't he? Was this a retreat? My guy, Johnson, I think that's his name, Robertson is his name, A.T. Robertson. Robertson titles this passage with the word retreat in it, so that it seems this as Jesus is retreating. He's fleeing, one might say. Do you think that this is a retreat? What would he be retreating from? And please don't misunderstand the term retreat, because sometimes we look at retreat and we're not very thoroughly military in our thinking about it. I think we should be. Because sometimes retreats are they're not stupid things at all. They're very sensible things in a war. So, what do you think about this?
It is a retreat, and I think he is actually, in the military sense, on a retreat away from people trying to kill him.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he is retreating from Jerusalem, purposely.
Is this after he had to run in with the Sadducees and Pharisees?
Yes, and he has had this big, long discourse that we talked about 2-3 weeks ago in John. I think we spent about 2 weeks on it, where he has this thing come up about he had done the feeding of the 5,000, and then they show up at Capernaum, and he says to them, "What are y'all after? Bread? You guys are interested in just getting something to eat? What are you coming around here for?" And so it starts this conversation then about the true bread. You should be looking for the true bread out of heaven. That's what you should really look for. And so then the Jews start in on him. Well, what is this true bread out of heaven? Go ahead and give it to us. And so he starts trying to explain to them, I'm the true bread out of heaven. And so that goes on for a large part of chapter 6 in John. And there's a lot of pushback. In fact, Jesus loses a huge number of disciples at this point, because they don't want to face up to the kind of thing that he's talking about. It troubles them too much, and they can't feature that somehow or another I'm responsible for eating gather typically on the Sabbath day, and they will read scripture and sing psalms, and, very much not terribly unlike what you and I do, except that, they don't celebrate Jesus. We do. But in this case, Jesus was there and they didn't like it. And he said things that they didn't like it either. And so, yes, I think that there was some animosity building. And Jesus left purposely because he could see this happening. Why would he do that?
It wasn't time for it to come to it.
I think that's it exactly. He's not ready for all this to come to a head yet. There's a lot of things, I think, that he wants to put in play before he goes. And I don't think only the idea that, I have to be in Jerusalem at a particular place and time, and, that's true, but I think there are a lot of other things that might be important for him to deal with, like what? Got a little book in my library. It's called the Training of the 12.
Well, it wasn't, taking the demons out of people, spreading it to the countries. He wasn't done with his miracles.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I don't think I even really thought about that very hard. But I think that's just great. He wasn't done with his healing ministry. He had a lot more good, simple good that he wanted to do. Yeah, I find that.
He wasn't done training the 12 either. They
Right.
still didn't understand.
Right. They didn't understand. They didn't really get a lot of what he was about. Would they get some more? I don't know. But I think there's something else that happens, and I don't think that it affected what you and I might think of as the intellectual side of these men particularly. But it affected something deeper. That is, he was with them. And they were with him. And they were getting used to him. And getting to love him more and respect him more. I'm reminded of a song from an old movie you may have heard of, My Fair Lady. This is too revealing, but I'm going to tell you anyway. This is one of my very favorite movies. I love My Fair Lady. Now, I know you also know I love Once Upon a Time in the West and a lot of stuff like that, but I love My Fair Lady. It's an awesome movie. And one of the songs in this movie is called I've Grown Accustomed to Your Face. And the person singing this is giving his rationale, so to speak, of love. I don't want you to leave me. I don't want you to be absent from me. There's something about your face that I just love being around you. That's the idea. And I think this is what in part is happening to these men. We call it the training of the 12, but I think, and I think there was a good bit of intellectual training that's being done as well, how to, the sort of the instinctual types of things that you have in leadership that should be present in these men as they go along. But also don't miss this, that a lot of it simply wasn't. It was just growing used to him and loving him. And that, I think, happens for you and me today if we're open to it and we stick around very long.
So are you saying then he's given them time to love him?
Yeah, he's just getting more time. He just needs more time with these men.
So
And
they know.
he'll be the judge of that, how much it takes. Did you have more?
No.
Well, what you said's been good. I wanted to get every bit of it I could there. Okay. All right.
sounds like to me.
Well, yeah.
Incognito, I don't want anybody knowing here.
Yeah, well, incognito's more, almost to me, it's more like, I can go in amongst you and you don't know who I am. It's almost like he doesn't even want you to know he's there at all. So, I'll take incognito, it's okay, but, he really, it's this location thing. You're not even supposed to know he's there. And, so that's the pause. He was unable to do this somehow, to keep his location secret. Why would it have been impossible? I put quotations around impossible because if he really wanted to, I'm sure it would have been possible. But why was it impossible, so to speak, for Jesus to keep his location secret?
Because people saw him do good things and miracles.
I think that's it exactly. I think it goes back to, what you're saying and what Gary had said previously about him wanting to do this work. When he sees he's in a frame at this point from, and this is true, practically from his first miracle of turning water into wine until he goes to the cross. He's in this frame of, when I see good that I may do, I do it. And a lot of that involved seeing people who were impaired and helping them by healing them. So, yeah, absolutely. I think you're on it there, Mantle. Why would it have been possible? Probably because of his healing. Where was this woman from that came along? What does Mark say about her origin? Where did she come from? What is she?
Well, she sounds like she's from the southern part of Phoenicia.
Syrophoenicia. So she's and the Phoenicians were kind of famous for seagoing and trading a lot, and so she would have been from that branch of people. And probably there's a fair chance that, at least in her background, she was what's that called? Polytheistic. That is, that she could very easily have been an idol worshiper. In this case, she wasn't. I would even suggest that because she has a daughter that's demon possessed, and I think that's partly how you get there, United States of America. You start thinking around with this stuff, and lo and behold, it has more power than you think it does. And you have troubles. And I do mean United States of America. I see too much of it today where somebody gets into a predicament that they cannot seem to extricate themselves from, and it affects them horribly. And you call it what you want to. Looks like demons to me. Sometimes that's present. You need to be aware of it. Less of it when a people make their one God God. In fact, there's none of it when they do. So anyway, where was the woman from? Tyre and Sidon, Phoenicia. So that's her background. In Matthew's account, Jesus' disciples get involved in the story. How do they get involved in the story?
The disciples,
Yeah.
they asked Jesus to tell her to go away.
You just tell her to leave. That's how the disciples get involved in this story. They just want to tell her to leave. Okay, was this nice or not nice of the disciples? It was not nice. Carla's back there shaking her head. That's right, it was not nice. And why did they act this way then? anything else that may tag in there? You know,
Because
people often work from a number of motives.
she's not a Hebrew.
Right, she's not a Hebrew. This is not our Hebrew woman. Heck, she's probably a pagan. She probably worships idols.
She's not even a Samaritan.
Yeah,
She's
not even a half-breed. She's just a breed. You know, you would think of her this way if you were a disciple. And, or at least it's very easy for you to do if you're a Hebrew young man and you're trying to take care of and follow after this man Jesus, and you're listening, you want to give him as much opportunity amongst the people that he has specifically said that he wants to engage, because he has said, I'm sending you only to the lost tribes of Israel. Says that very clearly to them when he sends them out on mission. So here comes this woman that's a non-Hebrew, and they're just operating according to marching instructions. You know, get out, get lost. You're not one of us. So that's their approach to this. If you had been there, say, as one of the disciples, how would you have responded to the woman? Why?
probably just like they did,
Very similarly.
most likely.
Very similarly. Is that in you to act this way, to kind of put on the you're not my tribe clothing, and, you know, I think it's kind of in us. I mean, if we say it's not in us, well, okay. But I bet you probably, if you look very hard, somewhere in your past, you have to look clear back to your childhood, but somewhere you probably acted this way. You know, or at the very least, if you did not act this way, you had someone act this way towards you. Even to, you know, hey, all girls got titties and whatever, that kind of stuff. So, all of that fits. And what's that?
Giving my wife a little
Brief.
grief.
All right. Well, we know better than you think that now, so there you go.
We sometimes do that similar things today.
Oh, I think we do.
If we see a guy on the street that's begging for money, we turn our head. If we see a guy in trouble on the road, we pass him.
Well, and I don't know how all of you respond to these things, but, and I know some of us are better at it than others and so forth, but, you know, when somebody is all tatted up, when they have rings and stuff all over their face or whatever, it's not, I have to go through discipline and exercise within in order to properly engage that person and care for them the way that they're supposed to be. And I do, but only because I happen to be a disciple of Jesus. He's the expert at this. And so, you know, I'm going to continue to do that. There are certain hurdles that are yet to be tried, and I hope I don't have to try them, but I can see them coming my way, and hopefully I'll know how to get over them in the moment when they come, because, you know, I honestly haven't dealt with anybody that's transsexual yet. And like I say, I don't really want to, but at the same time, I know that they have to be dealt with as people that need the grace of God, same as me. And so I'll have to do that. And I think that's part of what's in this lesson, is that, you know, if people are different and needy, you probably need to figure out how to help them. If it's in you to do, you need to figure out how to help them. So, okay, in Matthew's account, let's see, get involved from what was Jesus' rationale for refusing, at first, to visit God's deliverance upon the woman's daughter? Why did he say to her, or what is his rationale?
he told her that it's not good to
Yeah.
let the children go on and give the food to the dogs, and refer to her as a dog.
Yeah. No, he spoke of her in much the same way that you and I might speak of some of the folk that I've just described. We tend to look down on them. And this is kind of how Jesus speaks to her. I don't think it's fair to say, well, that's what Jesus did with her, that's what he meant toward her, is that she really wouldn't receive a blessing of a miracle upon her daughter, because that's not the way the story is. So I don't think Jesus.
But I don't think Jesus knew how much faith she had.
That's a good comment, and I refuse to answer it.
I think Jesus was doing his
It's a
thing.
question you should continue to
He
ask.
seems to always make someone confess that they know who he is. And I think that's what he was doing.
He was pushing her faith till she expressed the whole thing that was in her heart. And what she says is a fascinating thing. And Jesus, at least in effect, agrees to it. Now, I think he is
I think he
actually
was
teaching
taken
something
back a
much
little
bigger
bit.
than that. Yes,
I think he was taken back a little bit.
could be.
Oh, hey,
Well, I want you to keep asking that question, because I think it's a great question. I wish more people would ask it, because I'm with you, honestly. But I like for people to have to wrestle with it a little bit, because most of the time, what we do with instances like this, because there are many, actually, in the Gospels, where, well, for instance, the faith of the centurion. Jesus says, I haven't seen any faith like this in all of Israel. So yeah, I think he was capable of being surprised by people's faith. But on the other hand, I think he was pushing her. I think Jesus is capable of doing this to push you to see what's in it, what's in you.
well, I think every bit of her body.
He's also preparing the disciples. They have a lesson to learn in that too.
Exactly. What is that lesson?
They have to recognize that faith of the Gentiles, which some of them are going to, is as strong as their faith when they know the object of the faith.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very well put. All right, that's right. That's the good stuff, fellas. That's really good stuff. And I think you have to ask those questions and let your thoughts and imagination go the distances that it needs to go, because God's quite big enough for the whole thing, and His person Jesus that He sent amongst us is too quite big enough. So. There's other things that Jesus says consistently through Scripture, like in John the 10th chapter, Jesus is talking about, towards the end of the discussion, about I'm the shepherd and I'm the door, and I'm the shepherd again, and he says at the end, and I have more sheep who are not of this pasture that I'm going to call. So there are things that make you understand that Jesus knows that He's going to be including a great number of people who are not Israelite. But for the focus of His mission, through the period of time when He was amongst us physically, that was laser focused on the Israelites. And the Gentiles were not in that focus. They made themselves on occasion be a part of that focus by doing what this woman did. Coming, begging. Later on, Gentiles would come in the last week of Jesus' life and come up to His disciples and say, brothers, we want to see Jesus. And of course, there's been a lot of sermons made just on that little starts with somebody else, not the woman. Who does he start with?
The disciple.
Yeah, he says the same thing to the disciples. Yeah, exactly. But in Mark, of course, he says it to her, and I don't doubt that Jesus may have said it to each of them. It's just this is what Matthew picked up on as opposed to Mark. This is partly why this leads to another conversation, I suppose, and I'm not sure we want to get into these weeds very deeply, but there's often been this amongst people who talk about the Gospels. They want to say that there's a Q source, or a source for particularly Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And so they try to say that, well, it's probably Mark, and then I don't see that. I see rather that these are quite independent of one another. Now there's a source somewhere else, maybe the life of Jesus itself, that they were observers of him. So anyway, like I said, I don't want to get too far in those weeds. We may take it up sometime on an individual basis if you care to, but we'll move on tonight from there. What was it that Jesus predicated the healing on? It's kind of like, this is the trigger that he's going to take care of now. Now I'm going to go ahead and do this. What's the trigger?
For faith.
Her faith, exactly. Perfect. Let's see. How might this occasion have been instructive for the disciples? We talked about some of that. Is there anything else you want to add to it? We basically indicated that, hey, one of the things it's going to teach is that you're going to have to deal with the Gentile at some point and realize that they have faith, as Charlie pointed out. So is there anything else that they might be learning from this? Okay, let's move on. What about for us? Are we learning anything from it? Probably the same thing as disciples. Use your powers of conjecture here, and that means that, well, let's read the question. What do you think happened to the woman? In other words, we don't know what happened to her, and if we guess at it, that's what we're doing, guessing. And it doesn't really, as far as whether or not we can decide something by guessing, is immaterial. We can't, because it's conjecture. But we might learn something by making the conjecture. What do you think happened to the woman?
I think she spread the word.
Okay, she spread the word. Did she become a disciple?
Yes.
You think she became a disciple? Did she follow Jesus in baptism and participation in the early church?
No. I'd say she did.
I think she did. Why would she not?
I don't know why she wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm just kind of getting you to start thinking about this, and it's not necessary that she did, but when you do this conjecture bit that we're working on here, you start to say, you know what? There was a lot more to this retreat than merely retreat. See? We may be plowing ground out here that becomes fruitful for harvest in days ahead of us. Okay. All right, does this possibility expand the reason Jesus might have used in moving away from Jews? I just gave that away. Let's see, push your conjecture a little bit further. What might this work in this area mean for the development of the church in what had been thought of as a Gentile area? Again, we just covered that. Is it possible that some of our work is invisible to us? I think this is an important question for you to ask. Is it possible that some of our own work as Christians is invisible? That is, we're not even aware we are doing it.
It is for me.
Okay? Explain it, or at least give me an example or something that I can work from.
I don't recognize that if I'm ever doing that kind of stuff. I'm just being who I am.
question is it possible that some of our work is invisible to us?
We don't realize
You don't realize that you've done something good, but you
that's-
did.
It's a hard question because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, but in certain cases, you don't know for this period of time, and then it becomes revealed to you. And that happens for me plenty, where, I've gone on a while doing this or that, or teaching this or that, and somebody comes along and says, what you really did, and they'd say, well, how that helped them. And I go, whoa, I didn't even know I wasn't trying to do anything there.
You never know where you can plant a seed.
Exactly. Your example is more powerful than your powers of observation are. And I think it becomes evident to you as these kinds of things sort of circle around and you start to siphon them out and hear them, or not siphon them out, they get rained on you more than you do any work at all together. Okay. Do you think that the disciples understood all that Jesus had in mind for the work they did and the areas they traveled? I know. I think Jesus took these men on an adventure, so to speak, and they learned a lot as they went. That's just kind of the way they go. And there is this type of teaching present in the world today. I don't work at it very hard. I've got a nephew who works at it very hard. He's got a whole ministry devoted to this in Eminence, Missouri. It's called Discovery Ministries. And one of the things he does, he just takes kids out, or adults too. He takes them out on wilderness experiences. I don't know, a tour, yeah, they'll have a destination that they're headed for and they'll go together, but they have to carry very few things to do this with. They have to learn dependence upon one another. They may get into actual situations where, there's a fair amount of danger present. They have to climb rock walls or rappel down rock walls. They have to canoe here and there. They go through, it's a fairly wild part of the country over there in Eminence. And he has been doing this for a number of years. And that's part of the way he teaches, is he puts you in a position where you'll have to learn something about yourself and how to get through this situation. And dependence on one another, dependence on God. And of course, he's teaching from the Bible the whole time he's doing it. So, interesting approach, and I think it's certainly part of how Jesus taught. So, let's see. Okay, that's all we got on that one. We'll start this next one and see how far we get. Get a bit of reading here, so hang in there. We'll read fast. The Matthew side on the left side of 154. Departing from there, this is up near Tyre and Sidon, Jesus went along by the Sea of Galilee, and having gone up on a mountain, he was sitting there, and large crowds came to him, bringing with them those who were lame, crippled, blind, mute, and many others, and they laid them down at his feet, and he healed them. So the crowd marveled as they saw the mute speaking, the crippled restored, and the lame walking, and the blind seeing, and they glorified the God of Israel. Interesting comment. And Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I feel compassion for the people because they have remained with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat, and I do not want to send them away hungry, for they might faint on the way. The disciples said to him, where would we get so many loaves in this desolate place to satisfy such a large crowd? And Jesus says to them, how many loaves do you have? And they said, 7, and a few small fish. And he directed the people to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and said to him, Ephphatha, which is be opened. And his ears were opened, and the impediment of his tongue was removed, and he began speaking plainly. He gave them orders not to tell anyone. But the more he ordered them, the more widely they continued to proclaim it. They were utterly astonished, saying, He has done all these things well. He makes even the deaf to hear and the mute to speak. In those days, when there was again a large crowd and they had nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples and said to them, I feel compassion for the people because they have remained with me now for 3 days and have nothing to eat. If I send them away hungry to their homes, they will faint on the way, and some of them have come from a great distance. And his disciples answered him, Where will anyone be able to find enough bread here in this desolate place to satisfy these people? And he was asking them, How many loaves do you have? And they said, 7. And he directed the people to sit down on the ground, taking the 7 loaves. He gave thanks and broke them and started giving them to his disciples to serve them, and they served them to the people. They also had a few small fish, and after he had blessed them, he ordered these to be served as well. And they ate and were satisfied, and they picked up 7 large baskets full of what was left over of the broken pieces. About 4,000 were there, and he sent them away. Now on the back page, where does Jesus go in this passage? He was entire sighted, far removed. Where is he now?
By the Sea of Galilee.
By the Sea of Galilee. Now, some of your Bible maps might have Decapolis. Decapolis, strictly speaking, means 10 cities. So it's more of a region than a town that is in reference here. It's the region of the 10 cities. So what town or towns get special mention by Mark? Why would Mark want to call special attention to these towns? Because Mark says, he's kind of at pains almost to say, he went from the region of Tyre and came through Sidon to the Sea of Galilee. He's telling you very specifically that Jesus came down the seacoast of the Mediterranean. And then he went over to Galilee. So anyway, there's that. I find it fascinating that he spent his time next to the sea, the Mediterranean Sea. Anyway, what area of this, and plus he's going to Sidon and Tyre, and Jesus uses Tyre and Sidon in some other things that he talks about. He talks about judgment on Tyre and Sidon, for one thing. So he's familiar, I think, with these towns. It's not a big surprise to me that he is, because he's from Nazareth, which is not that far. So anyway, just thinking about some things locally, and I think the more you put that into your hopper, the more sense becomes to be made of your scripture. What area of the Sea of Galilee? Okay, that's Decapolis. Where does Jesus take a seat? He sits down to do this. What's his location?
On the hillside.
On a hillside or a mountain. He's on, they call it a mountain here in the text that I'm using. It's probably going to be more like a hill to us, and yet there's going to be some steepness to this thing that he sits on. Those hillsides are kind of deceptively steep. Why would he choose to sit on a mountain?
He's talking to 4,000 plus.
Yeah, that's, I think, very good.
Maybe you won't be seen.
Okay, wants to be seen. That's not too bad. I think I can deal with that.
Maybe an echo when he spoke, when you could hear.
Might have. Might have. I don't think I ever thought of this until this time through. But that conversation we had about retreat put this in my head earlier today. I've been thinking about the retreat thing, and it occurs to me that he see them high muckety mucks and their big helmets on their head, which they weren't helmets, but they might have worn, some sort of headgear, these people from the temple. I see them bobbing and weaving coming up through here. I'm getting ready. I'm starting to figure out what I'm gonna do.
Well, Decapolis was a Gentile predominant area.
Yes, that's true. So, interesting. Why the mountain? I don't know. But also, I find it interesting that, on a mountain, if you invite people to come, or if the idea is within the folk, I wanna go see Jesus, if he's on a mountain, you have to intend to go. You're not gonna just end up there. You have to get up there and see what's up.
Yeah, it's a test of faith too.
Yeah, it is. I think it is.
It's what, man?
A test of faith.
Yeah.
Leaving your house, going down the road with this crowd of people that keeps getting bigger and bigger, and instead of stopping, you have to climb a hill.
That's fascinating to me because Jesus did a little work along the Jordan River early in his ministry, because you find that he is baptizing early in his ministry. Late in his ministry, not so much. And John the Baptist is down by the Jordan, of course, throughout his ministry. That's what he does. Jesus decides he's not going to be in that predicament for some reason, and I just think it's fascinating to ask some questions and see if you can figure it out mine. Well, we're not going to be able to cover the rest of this tonight. We'll try and remember what we did cover and pick it up whenever next we meet, which may be clear up the end of December, or it may be mid-December, depending on what we do with the idea of caroling. Let's pray, and we'll be dismissed. Father, we thank you again for your word. Wow, it's good to see Jesus, and thank you for these folk out here that are helping me with their answers, and I praise you for them and ask you to bless them. And keep us all safe, Lord, and draw us near to you, to see you, to know you, to be alert